Hi, I'm Christine Cushing, and welcome to another helping of my favorite foods. Well, it's unanimous. Everyone who's tried my moussaka swears it's the best they've ever tried. This is an heirloom family recipe that's been refined for over decades. I'm going to share with you all the tips and tricks that make it perfect and what people are saying once they've tried it. Are you ready to trash the kitchen? Let's go. This very special family recipe was my dad's original creation, and I've been refining it for over years. And these are the tips and tricks that make it really amazing. There's 3 components: meat sauce, the veggies, and the bechamel. First, the meat sauce. Now, the classic Greek meat sauce features these warm aromatic spices, cinnamon, cloves, and you can smell them in the house as that sauce is simmering, no matter where you are. Also, the Greek dried oregano right on the stem that has so much intense flavor. You may not know that thyme also grows super abundantly in Greece. It's a different variety actually, and it's very, very robust. It's amazing. Now for the monster garlic clove. I'm chopping it here, but not mincing it finely to avoid any burning. Are you ready for a little controversy? Let's go. I'm heating up my pan with a bit of olive oil to brown my meat first. You can use lean beef, veal, or lamb, or combinations of. This is my trick of building flavor by browning the meat first. Most often you'll see people browning the meat to this point, where it's pretty much gray, and they've just evaporated the moisture from the meat. But the Maillard reaction has not begun. Ooh, big words, Maillard reaction. That's just the caramelization. So I like to take it to this point where you're going to start to smell a roasted meat, just aroma. And that's in the browning. I'm not burning the meat, but I am browning it. Now I'm going to add my onions to the center, lower the heat, put on the lid, and just let them sweat for a few minutes just to start bringing out those sugars. Next, the garlic goes in, always at the end to prevent burning. Now a little tomato paste for some body, that thyme we were talking about, bay leaf, more dried oregano, a cinnamon stick. I ground the cloves here and just a little pinch of cayenne. That was my dad's signature, always just like a little undertone of heat. Look at these chopped tomatoes, look so beautiful. You want to make sure you use great quality tomatoes because that's the main part of your sauce here. Always adding a little bit of water just to deglaze those beautiful caramelized bits. Seasoning with a little bit of salt, some pepper, and I'm gonna let that simmer for about 45 minutes. We throw around the word crowd pleaser a lot these days, but this recipe in fact, deserves the title of crowd pleaser. Now, I wanted to share with you some comments of viewers who have actually made the recipe, and this is what they've said. And I'm back to say, the best moussaka in the world, exclamation mark. I use this recipe in a moussaka cook-off and won, exclamation point triple. This recipe is great. Wow, that's incredible. I've made this 3 times now, and each time it gets better as I make it with more love and really do brown that meat. It adds so much depth of taste to the meat sauce. 5 stars. The best moussaka I ever made. So good that it's now a family favorite. Need I go on? Now, the first revision that my dad made to this classic recipe was instead of frying all the veggies, which was insane, he would bake them. And so that's what we're gonna do. Yes, frying gives you a really rich flavor, but it also makes a huge mess, and it also uses a ton of oil. Making a rich moussaka that is not oily is the mission here. While the meat is simmering, let's prepare the veg. I'm using Italian eggplant that have fewer seeds, and I'm looking for shiny skins, no blemishes, with a heavy weight. And this is how I like to slice them. I don't want them too thinly. I like them to have about 1/4 of an inch, let's say. That way they're fully gonna cook in the oven before I assemble them with the meat sauce. So essentially, I'm going to do the same preparation for all my veggies. I want to wash them and thinly slice them according to what you see in the video here. The only difference for the eggplant, I salt them for 20 minutes in a colander until I see a little bit of this moisture rendering. That helps to draw out any bitter notes, and then I rinse them completely to keep them moist during cooking. I like to keep the veggies in separate bowls, toss with a little bit of olive oil and some seasoning, a little bit of salt, some pepper. Again, it's up to you. I like going in with a bit of oregano as well as the thyme in each of these, making sure I distribute everything evenly before I lay them out on my trays. Now at this point, my oven is set to 375 with a fan setting. That's a Fahrenheit setting. When I think of my dad making this through the years, the kitchen was an absolute disaster. It's amazing now. I have it really down to a science, and I love using the parchment sheets on the veggies. It makes cleanup a lot easier. Now I'm going to pop them into the oven. I'm lucky I have a big oven where all these sheets are going to fit in, but you can alternate them, do 2 at a time. 375, it's about 15-20 minutes, could be even a little bit more depending on your oven. And you want to move them around just so they're nice and golden all over. Now for the assembly. You should start getting a little drool factor going because moussaka is imminent. By the way, it's moussaka, not moussaka, just saying. And I'm starting to get excited already. At this point, the meat is simmering and I get that beautiful classic Greek meat sauce aroma, the cinnamon, the cloves, the bubbling. It's amazing. Now I'm checking my meat sauce and it's important that I look for a certain texture. I don't want the meat sauce to be too runny, so this looks about right. I want most of the moisture to have evaporated, but I don't want it to be dry. If it's too wet, the moussaka is not going to hold together. Drizzling with a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. Assembly is imminent now. Starting with the first layer, which is the potatoes. That makes the most sense. We just put the olive oil down just to prevent them from sticking. This was another one of my dad's great tips. He separated the meat sauce, so half of the meat is going to go on top of the potatoes and the other half is going to go on top of the other 2 layers of vegetables. It really gives a beautiful distribution of texture throughout. Making it nice and smooth now for the next layer. You can see these eggplant are fully cooked. The one thing about eggplant, if you don't cook it fully, it can become leathery. The final layer is going to be this beautiful layer of zucchini or courgette. And last but not least, the top layer of that meat. I want to get it nice and smooth in preparation for that bechamel layer on top. I've done quite a few bechamels on the channel, so I skipped to the prepared bechamel. If you want to check out my step-by-step, it's an older video of what to do and how to make the perfect bechamel, you want to click up here. So this bechamel has been sitting for just a few minutes and you can see it gets a skin on it. No big deal here. And I'm fishing out my bay leaf. And now going in with some grated Parmigiano Reggiano. You could use a Greek cheese, kefalotiri, whatever you like. That's a little bit saltier, like pecorino romano. And again, another tip from my dad. He would only use egg yolks instead of whole eggs. So I'm just whisking a couple of egg yolks here. And because the bechamel has sat for a couple of minutes, it's not piping hot, so I'm not worried about it cooking the egg yolks right away. This is going to give my bechamel a more custardy texture instead of a firm set texture when you have the full eggs. At this point, your heart should be racing because it's about to go into the oven. Look at this. 350, fan on. It's going in the oven. Now a little exhale. If you want to do some breathing exercises, this would be the time because we're about to taste. Look at this thing of beauty. You can't imagine how it smells. I mean, you just cannot. You know what the hardest part about this is? Waiting. Once you take it out of the oven, 30 minutes for it to come together, and then we taste, which is now. Droolage. If I'm drooling, you're going to tell me, right? is crying aloud once you taste something. Oh my, that is so good. All of the textures, the flavors, that cinnamon, the clove, so light and so rich at the same time. And that custardy bechamel, it's ridiculous. I'm telling you right now, whatever the portions are, you're gonna double it because it's impossible to stop eating this. Just saying. Thank you so much for joining me on another helping of my favorite foods. Please go out and make this moussaka for any of your upcoming family, friends, special days, gatherings, holidays. You're gonna love it. See you soon.